You mentioned Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, and him, and Kevin Nash, and Shawn Walkman, and you, and then Hunter would all become the clique backstage, and there's a lot of stories about that from you guys and from other people. Do you think now, looking back from what you remember about it, were you guys as bad as people say you were about things? Would you make fun of people as much as people say? Or were you from your perspective, is it different, the narrative about it?
Well, first of all, in wrestling, nothing's as big or as bad as anybody says it is. Our business is built on the fish story. Everything in wrestling, from what you see on TV to even the stuff you hear, read, and everything else, it's all overemphasized. It's all over-dramatized. It's pro wrestling. That's what we do. You know what I mean? And again, and I mean it respectfully, but even you guys as fans do it. I have sat there with, whether it be 5 wrestling fans or 5 WWE wrestlers, I've sat there and I've watched something happen with all of them. I've watched them all describe it again to someone else, and it is, at the very least, 3 times bigger than what it was we all sat there and actually watched. That's just the way it is. That's what makes us all wrestling fans. That's why we're all here enjoying the same stuff. You know, everything is bigger and all that. So, but to answer your question, we were pretty darn bad, but no, I mean, and like I said, nothing is, again, it's just the fish story. I mean, man, it was this big. All right, so what was that big? You know, but it is certainly, it's like, Vince McMahon's always right. It's taking everybody's personality and just, turning it up. And that's what all the stories are and everything else. We had a ton of fun. We were a big pain in the backside. People still do it, and then we and countless other people sit there at the monitor, and we're all a bunch of dudes. I mean, it's like a frat house sitting there watching the other guys out there doing stuff. You sit there and you know what I mean, make fun of them, bury them, do whatever. So yeah, I'd say easily 70 to 80% of it's probably pretty darn accurate. But I guess again, but to us it was, so are a lot of things, I guess, in wrestling. For us, I guess, let's put it this way, I don't want to downplay it, but for us it was our normal. You know what I mean? I guess the thing is, if you're raised around chaos, chaos don't bother you that much. And so obviously it was. I mean, we all were tight. We all knew we were joking. Let's put it this way. So for instance, that's why fast forward 10 years later, or 15, I guess more 15 or 20 years later. So now I'm the old guy. All right. Now I'm the guy that's losing my hair and stuff like that. That's why we went ahead and joked about me doing it. All right, so I guess that was the thing about the clique and me and everybody else. So we'd sit there and when we were 25 or 35 and make fun of you, but at the very least we had the balls when we were 45 to make fun of ourselves about the same stuff going on. And that's the part about the clique that always we didn't understand. How come it was okay to do it when you were 35, but at 45 all of a sudden you're looked and you're like, hey brother, don't do that. Why not? I mean, you were making, you know what I mean? It'd be like me getting mad at Randy and Edge for going out and, when they did the DX thing. You know what I mean? I mean, it was funny. It's like getting mad at them and hot at them for doing that. For making fun of, I don't know. Or it's like when dudes used to call me old or whatever. I don't know. I never thought to make me that mad. You know what I mean? Because to a 25-year-old dude, 45 is old. You know what I mean? And if he's 25 and the rest, I don't know. And I guess that's the thing. It's pro wrestling. What do I care? Well, you know what I mean? I hate to break this to you, but like it ain't. I mean, the physical stuff, yeah, that's real. But somebody else decides who wins and loses. Well, I'm sorry. Well, but I'm just saying. I've ruined it now, haven't I? Son of a. Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, let's put it this way. Like, I never got even I wasn't anywhere near that cool. I never have been. You know what I mean? I guess that's the thing. I mean, we all understood all the sort of the BS that went along with it. And I suppose that's the thing that really stuck in our craw. And the bigger deal you made out of that stuff, and the more it bothered you, man, the more we put it on you. That's just the way it is. Because the minute you showed, that kind of stuff bothered you, it was too fun to give you a hard time about it. And so we did. And I guess that's, so yeah, I mean, we were bad, but like I said, we thought it was funny. And I don't know, I go back now and it doesn't bother me. Let me tell you something, old man. He's an HB kid. You're no kid anymore. Like, no. Well, sorry. I don't know. I'm the one that calls myself old. Hell, it's getting that way. I don't know. Didn't know I was supposed to be offended at that. I don't know. I am losing of course I'm losing my hair, for the love of God, and it's going great. I got hair on my back too, and in my ears and everywhere else. It won't grow. I don't know that. I don't know. I don't have what it takes to let that kind of stuff bother me, man. I've been taking my clothes off on TV for 30 years. What the hell do I care?
But you talk about the click and the bad stuff that's said, but you won the WWF title at WrestleMania 12. We saw you ziplining there in the Anaheim Pond, and it was shortly after that you can kind of see on TV that you seem frustrated a lot, whether it's part of you as a character or in real life. Where did the frustration come from that you remember? What was it that just made you so frustrated about wrestling? Because you were one of the top guys, you were making good money, you were a main eventer. What was the frustration from originally?
Well, it depends on what era we're talking about. Lots of times I was frustrated.
Like 96 when you win the belt.
Yeah, well, you know what? I would imagine like a lot, everybody knows about, the fricks between Brett and I, and then, and honestly, like some of that, and heck, even Brett will tell you, so half the time, like we're mad at each other, and then half the time we're mad at the company because we're not sure if they're stirring it, making it worse. You know what I mean? So there were a lot of things. But honestly, I will say, I think if I'm to be like as honest as I can be, and as responsible as I can be, I think a lot of it, certainly from the '96 standpoint, from the time of being a babyface and being the champion, it was it not being again, you hope and dream that it's this, that, and the other, and it wasn't. You know what I mean? It didn't go well. I didn't like being that kind of a babyface at the time. It wasn't enjoyable. It was a lot of pressure. I mean, you're doing everything under the sun. You're going here, you're going there, every personal appearance in the world. So a lot of that is on me. And then of course, you got all of a sudden now, for the first time ever, you're hearing about, oh my goodness, now everything's ratings and it's this and it's that, and now things, the pay-per-view numbers, and it's up. Now it's on you to, if other people, if people aren't making enough money, that's on you, and then you need to be replaced. It's a lot of stuff going on, and I, again, freely admit, did not have the maturity, did not have the, whatever you want to call it, inner strength, whatever the case may be, to handle that very well. And so I took it out on whatever it is I had to take it out on. Half the time it was on myself, but then the result of that was, getting on TV and, whatever, cussing somebody or doing something. The one thing I will say is that when we went to Monday Night Raw, you absolutely never knew what it was you were going to get out of me on live television. And there was a time, even then, and not to imply in any way, shape, or form that this added to any frustration or anything like that, but certainly that's also one of those things that it doesn't take you long to figure out that, oh my goodness, I mean, the more outlandish I get, this is live TV, this is all of you guys listening and watching and hearing. I mean, if I wanted to vent to somebody and I wanted to tell them the truth and let them know really what's going on back there, I could come out here and do it, and they couldn't stop me, because by the time I said it, it would be out over the airwaves because it's live TV. You know what I mean? And so that was what caused a lot of, and that was, depending on one's perspective, okay? So I was, whatever I was, 30 some odd years old, doing the job that I wanted to do, getting paid okay for it. But at the same time, man, I was willing to go out there on live TV and take a risk every week about getting fired. But I was just so angry and pissed off, I just didn't care. So half the time I went out there and I was just gonna vent and rag on somebody. And that was honestly my opportunity to do it. That's why it came across that way. And I guess that's one of the things I always try to tell people. It's like, so if I wasn't doing this on live TV, how was it that you guys knew I was angry and frustrated? And you know what I mean? And most of it, because like you guys never came home with me. Like I don't ever remember seeing any of you guys in San Antonio. You know, being in my house or any of the places I hung out. And so clearly it was something that you guys got from the way I was acting on television. Which again, all accurate and true, but also over the years, I mean, clearly that seemed to make a difference. I mean, people were noticing it, and you know, somehow it did make a difference. And I get it that even then, you know, I get it that the internet started. I get it that there were, you know, still smart fans and stuff like that, but not in the huge numbers that they are now. And the only way that really gets out is that you guys pick it up. You sense it, even from what you see on TV. It's no difference. I mean, that's one of the things I've learned in 30 years of doing this stuff. You guys sense what's going on even behind the facade sometimes. And that's what I think is so cool about it, is that, you know, if there's a genuineness in here, you guys somehow seem to always sift through all the BS and find it out. You know what I mean? And that was, I found that to be empowering way back then. So, you know, the more you figure that out, the more you just, you know, you keep letting it fly.
Obviously, Montreal is something that you've talked about 100 million times. I've thought if I was going to ask you any question, it's got to be something you've not talked about before. So Montreal happens, you agree to do it, you agree to participate, but Vince McMahon tells you you cannot anywhere publicly tell anybody that you knew about it. You had to pretend that, like Brett, you didn't know it was going to happen. The next day on TV, when you guys get there, you know, Mick Foley said he went home. He didn't want to come back. What was it like for you the next day? Because it's still very raw, pardon the pun, but like you get to TV and you've got to now completely keep up this lie to everybody, knowing that, you know, one day if you tell the truth, they might be pissed that you've lied to them for years, like good friends or whatever. What was it like the next day when you got to TV after Survivor Series? Well,
sure. Clearly, you're worried about going. I mean, but only just from like I can, you know, it's one of those things that I wonder what it's going to be like. You know, what's the atmosphere, temperature going to be like? The only thing, but as far as what everybody thought, and you know, hand to God, I didn't care. I asked about one dude, and when I went in, I said, "Where's Taker?" I said, "Where's Mark?" And they said he's in there with Vince. And I said, "All right." Because that was, I think, because it's the same, and you have to understand, you know, we've been there for the longest time. We see, you know, yada yada yada. It's two very different guys, very different personalities. But by this time, even then, you know, we knew that, you know, that there were two sort of pillars within the WWE that were going to be, you know, for the most part, you know, everything was sort of built around. And that's the only person I just need to know where he's at on this. You know what I mean? I just need to know where he's at, because if there's somebody you got to sit there and have a chat with, it's going to be him. We're going to have to, you know what I mean, for all of this to move forward, he and I are going to have to find a way to, you know what I mean, get simpatico on this. And clearly Vince knew the same thing, and that's why he was the first guy, you know, he talked to the next day. And to this day, and because it's one of those things that, you know, so much has passed and we've never even discussed it. I've never asked him, like, what did he tell you in there? But he, you know, I remember waiting on him, and he came out. He walked up to me, he goes, "We're cool." Off he went. I went, "All right." And then it was like, it was all, you know, both barrels loaded. After that, it was whatever it is they wanted. We went full gear, and but yeah, I mean. And honestly, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but again, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't fun by any stretch. I mean, that's one of the things that I think over the years that it even, you know, Brett and I both, for us both to get sort of past our own sort of personal feelings about it, I think when we finally started putting ourselves in the other person's shoes, I think that's what helped you get it all over with. I honestly think when Brett realized that, like, okay, when he heard me say enough times, like, hey, what? It's not like I was thrilled to be that dude. You know what I mean? It isn't like I ever, when I was, 12 years old, 15 years old, I sat at home going, I don't want to just be a pro wrestler. I want to be a pro wrestler, and then when I'm in it, I want everybody in that industry to hate my guts and be the most hated guy in the wrestling business. You know what I mean? That isn't what you hope for. And when I would leave this and the show and that image and that kind of junk and go back to San Antonio, Texas, and just be Shawn Hickenbottom and sit there in the mirror and realize, damn, dude, you're the most hated guy in wrestling. It sucked. It was absolutely, again, it wasn't anything you aspired to do. It wasn't what you dreamed of being when you were 12. And so I think, it took people a long time to, sort of, because you do. I mean, it's very, you get cut and, all you can do is think about your own wound. You don't really think about, whatever, the guilt and all that junk that the other person may have, felt about, doing that to you or why they did it and stuff like that. And again, not that I'm looking for anybody to cry me a river, don't get me wrong. It was just, it's not like it was a blast. It wasn't, and like I said, so one of those things that, I don't know, you're a grown man in a grown business, you got to man up, do it, and you go on. But like, all I ever tell people is like, don't get me wrong, it's not like it was, that's the gig you're looking for. It wasn't.
And one of the biggest criticisms of you as a wrestler, I mean, nobody's ever said, Shawn Michaels is a bad wrestler. But when we announced this tour, I remember there was 3 specific people from Glasgow, and they had tweeted us and said, is he bringing his smile?
What was that?
Is he bringing his smile? Because of the Lost His Smile promo. And
he smiled. I thought you looked like snail. What the... So for us, it's smile. But I got you. Smeal.
so when you lost your smile,
Smeal.
but that's one of the criticisms is.
That's what I've noticed too. It isn't It's and I'm just kidding. You all are spectacular. I'm just being silly, but it's like because I spent so much. I've been over here more than I've been home lately. Between that movie and this tour and stuff, I've been over here a lot. So I've had an opportunity to take it in a little bit. So I apologize.
But one of the biggest criticisms of you as a wrestler is he would never put somebody over, or you would forfeit championships, or there was like a statistic of like he had 9 title reigns and he only lost twice and whatever it was. But like looking back now, like do you think was it fair? Were you against doing that, or do you think is it blown out of proportion?
Look, I don't know if it's fair. Is life fair? I have no idea. Beats me. All right? If you could win more than you could lose, would you do it? Name me another 190-pound guy that's done what I did in the wrestling business. Name me another 190-pound guy that you pay the money to come over here and do this stuff. It don't happen by magic, my friend. I'm being silly. Some of them true, some of them not. And like I said, and it goes back to, symbolic of like the WrestleMania conversation with Vince. We talk all the way around, just like we did about wearing my gear. And ultimately, it would be like, do I have to do this? Is this something you are telling me you want to be done? And if he said yes, I always did it. The problem that everybody has with it is that, well, I got to talk. I could talk him out of it. I could get him to go, and that's what it is. Are you sure? Because you told me that you were going to give me my opportunity, you were going to give me my chance, and you're telling me that 3 months, 6 months, whatever. When this other guy got this other guy again. All I've ever done in my arguments. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I could play one on TV, but is talk my, again, get my opportunity to speak my piece. And all I ever did was use, someone else's analogy, somebody else's stats, somebody else's whatever, and his own words, and put them back, and then, and that was it. So, and that was, again, and that was the only stuff I ever did. But ultimately, when he said he wanted it done, I did it. And I'll tell you why that is and why it's true is because you think about all the other guys who said no. He fired them. Nobody else is still here. Had I done again, at least the stuff that, you've seen DVDs and stuff like that. I mean, he's told people in interviews, taking more from him than I have from anybody. You know what I mean? And he's been on record. I'll never take it. And I'd never put him through it again. But I did. I put him through a lot. I probably aged a man more than anybody. And that's the only thing. And I don't say that gleefully or whatever. That's why when I went back in 2002, I came back and I said I was, and I would, I am here to help. I am absolutely going to do my best to leave this place better than when I come in. Because I know I didn't do that the first time. Just like when I came back and he said, look, the first time we did this, and he did, in 96. He said, I want you to enjoy this. And I said, I will. And I didn't. And when I came back in 2002, he said, you remember in 96? I said, yep. And he goes, and you didn't enjoy it, did you? I said, nope. He goes, I want you to enjoy this one. I said, I promise you I will. And I did. And that's all you can do, because that's the thing. And I get it. And as a wrestling fan or whatever, and when you're on the outside looking and all that, it's just a job, and it's just this, for you guys. But you have to understand, I've been there since I was 23. This is my life. Okay? That's why I'm still here. This was his life. I've spent more of my adult life with the people in that company. There's two men who I've been around, the most powerful men in my life, my dad and Vince McMahon. There hasn't been two more influential men in my life than those two men. I was a big pain, I was all that stuff, but ultimately, I've always done what he asked me to do, and I've always held him to, again, like, do I have to do it? And when he said yes, I did it, and I always tried to do it well. But again, but make no mistake about it, as I said, no, I was, like I said, I was 90, easily I'll say 90% of all the stuff people said I was, for the most part. I've always just said, look, I've always, especially when I came back in 2002, I admitted to all the stuff that I did. There isn't any stone I've left unturned. That's the thing. That's why I can do this stuff. That's why, it don't embarrass me. I don't worry about anything. I got nothing to hide, okay? The only thing I'm not going to do, and that's what the wrestling business wants, and people do that, which is like, once you start rolling over on the stuff you did, they start wanting to pile on more and I'm not going to, pardon my language, I got no problem stepping up for the stuff I did, all right? I'm all man and a yard frickin' wide, all right? But you don't get to lay more stuff on me. If it didn't happen, it didn't happen. If it did, I'll tell you, but I've earned my right. I don't have to take any. You know what I mean? So that's the only part I ever take up with anybody.